another event as I went back on about earlier on, was the Raft Race Marathon Challenge that we had from Killin to Logierait for the first year, and then for subsequent years after that it finished under the bridge at Grandtully. Now, can you maybe tell us more about it? Obviously it was an endurance event, but Surf decided that it should also be a charity event. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about that?
Well, I know one of our own local lads had been caught up, and he was away at Eden Hall in the spinal unit because he had a very bad accident in Victoria Park, and Bill Finlay, who was the chairman of Surf, suggested that we do it for Eden Hall. And over the 3 years, Grease raised over 3,000, about nearly £4,000.
Yeah, so that was about £1,000 a year. That, now you go back to the 80s. I mean, that was a lot of money, and again a lot of hard work put in by the team. And yeah, you should be rightfully proud. The team should be rightfully proud of what they did, and also the way they competed in the races and won the races. But it was also nice to see that they took raising funds as serious as they did racing. And I think I'm right in saying that every year Grease were the team that raised the most funds. Am I right in saying that?
Yes, undoubtedly.
Yeah. So no, I mean, fair dues to every team. I mean, everybody was there to raise funds, but it was great that a team that was out there at the front weren't only just concentrating on winning the race, but they also wanted to make sure that they were making a difference for charity as well. And I'm sure the funds were greatly received at Eden Hall at the time for the equipment and other services required.
The committee went down to Eden Hall one particular year and presented the cheque, and it was more than welcome.
Yeah, that was great. No, fantastic. Now, just like football teams, there were eras and there were teams that dominated the scene. Other teams that I last, Sundancer, who were always a big competitor of Grease over the years, and Omega were the other teams, and there was other few teams dotted here and there, but they were certainly the most dominant teams of their era, shall we say.
come in. Over there. Looks like a fuck. Hey lads, end game. Let's go! Let's go! Alright, there's only one, let's find this team. Come on boys, go! Coming in again. Sorry, I'm not for it. Just tie your thing, man. Take it up. Give us three! Look back at me. Right, back up! Just come back with the fire in the water. Oh, the water. There's some up. Then you'll see the bridge.
Yeah, now going on to the training side of things, I don't think people realised the amount of effort and everything that went into it. I can remember on starting training for the raft race season, which normally went from April right through to September, and we used to travel all over the country doing it. It became a serious sport. I would call it a serious sport, and there was a league started in 1983. 83?
Yeah,
called the Scottish United Rafters Federation, and you raced the races on rivers and sea, and you got points for coming first, second, third, fourth, and it was a championship, and the team with the most points won. Now, I can remember us. I mean, what would I be? I'd have been 83. I was in the Air Force, and I was travelling up at weekends from Cosford to race and train, and I can remember paddling down from Killin to Kenmore on Loch Tay for a training run. Could you maybe elaborate more on the reason for that and why we did that?
It's just to get fit. We used to do that about maybe 2 Sundays a month, to paddle from Killin to Aberfeldy, Killin to Kenmore. And there was one particular day there was a raft race committee meeting at about lunchtime, and we were going to continue on to Aberfeldy that day, and I had to get off at Kenmore because we'd taken so long to come down the loch.
I can confirm that they were hard sessions and very, very energy draining. But again, these sessions that we did certainly helped in the future, because not only did we do the Kenmore Aberfeldy and races, they tended to be about 6 miles in length. We used to, it was decided to up the ante and the challenge. We did a couple of, well, I suppose we call them ultra distance events. We did a race from Killin down to Logierait, which would have been the whole of the Loch Tay on what was a sea raft. They were a different sign from the river raft, and then you were on the river raft right down from Kenmore to Logierait, going through Grandtully Rapids, which was fairly exciting. And we also did another one from Perth to Broughty Ferry, which again was just, that was on a sea raft again. And again, that was a real challenge of stamina. And I would say at the time, Grease Raft were probably one of the fittest teams there, but that's maybe being a wee bit biased, but we were never ever beaten on the long distances for over 3 years, because we had the stamina and the determination and the grit.
Watch your back.
well, you're going on about that. There was another person that wasn't directly involved in the Grease team paddling as such, but we mustn't forget the influence and success that he provided Grease over the years, and that was a guy called Jim Gifford. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about Jim?
Jim, he was fantastic. He was a joiner from Edinburgh. How we got involved with him in the first place was he had actually come to look at a race that we were doing and decided our raft wasn't capable of doing what we hoped it would do. And at that time, you were allowed to put a point on the river raft, and he built a point. He went away home that weekend, took the measurements, way home, and built it, and put it on the next day, the next week, and the success just went from there. And we always said, when it come to 1985, we were paddling away, we were doing fairly well, and I'd always said, you know, if Jim Gifford could just build us another raft, and he did, and that was when we won Aberfeldy for the third time. But his engineering technology and that was fantastic. Between him and Bob McIntosh, the two of them were joiners, professional joiners, and they built some fantastic rafts. Helped us out immensely.
On that front, on the technical side of things, British cycling were pretty famous for saying marginal gains. Now, I think we were way ahead of British cycling in the 80s about marginal gains. Certain things that we did that I don't think any other raft went to the same extremes as we did, but maybe you could maybe elaborate on what we did to the paddles and what we did prior to every race. Can you maybe elaborate on what we did there for marginal gains?
Well, there was a set of scales that we took out, and everybody was weighed prior to the race and seated accordingly, so we would get the nose up on the river raft especially. But it never seemed to work, because every time we seen a video, we were pushing half the Tay down in front of us, or half our river down in front of us, where other ones were skimming the water without no resistance at all. Had we been able to do the same, I don't think anybody would have touched us at all.
And what about polishing the raft? You're not giving away the trade secrets?
It used to be a week before the race, every night was polish, and you could put the cloth on at one end and it would come flying off the other.
Yeah, so it was basically just car polish. We used to stand there and we used to buff it to a shine. You could honestly see your face in the paintwork, it was that shiny. And what about the paddles? Because we came up with an engine.
Well, that was through Jim as well, because he was great into sailing and that, and we had the paddles and we put edges on them to catch more water instead of just a straight paddle. We had this edges put on, beadings as you would call them, and that was very effective as well.
Yeah, and most of the guys had paddles to suit themselves. I mean, fairly basic things, but even the length of the paddle made a difference, and every guy kind of had their own favourite paddle, shall we say, they got used to, and certainly we did generate a lot of power behind that sort of thing. So yeah, no, I think, as you said, I think we were ahead of the game as far as British cycling. Maybe British cycling learned a few tricks of the trade from us regarding marginal gains, because I might be wrong, because we don't know what other teams were doing at that time, but I don't think other teams went to the same lengths and details as we went to try and get that enhanced performance.
I can remember it was a race at Forfar the week before Anstruther. Now Anstruther was the British Sea Championships at that particular time, and we'd built this new raft, a super shiny raft, and we went with the old raft to Forfar, and I think we come second or third at Forfar, and Anstruther at that time were just the bee's knees, and they thought they had nothing to do but go on the sea at Anstruther and win. And we come out with this new raft and shocked them all.
Yeah, I would say that that decision that you took to hold on to the raft there probably did cost us the championship that year. But that was certainly the new standard, because up until that time at Anstruther 1983, nobody, and I mean nobody, got near the Sundancer Raft Team on the sea, they were just a class apart. But when we came with that new raft that Jim designed and launched it, that we were the trailblazers for the next 3-4 years. Nobody touched us on that on the sea, and it was quite incredible actually. But people used to say it was a raft, that it was definitely the crew on top as well, because Jim built himself an identical raft with what he had for his own team, but they never really got to the same levels of performance that we did, and that was all down to the 10 guys and the hard sweat, toil, training on top of the raft, without a doubt. Yeah, so as I say, we worked hard and we did enjoy the wins, but we also played pretty hard, and we had some great nights. Could you maybe tell us what happened after the races?
After every race, we went to the fountain in Aberfeldy. It was a Square Grill at that time, I think it was called, wasn't it?
Yeah, Square Grill, yeah.
Square Grill, and the owners were Cathy and Billy Ross. And we had some fantastic nights, or early mornings in there, but we still had to work, and some of the women had to get their kids to school the next day. How we done it, I do not know.
Yeah, I can relate to a few sore heads after celebrating the Square Grill. That's for sure. It was quite tremendous nights. Great times.
Yeah.
It was a shame. It's a shame that but every team has its day, and as I said, 1986 was our season, and we'd never ever repeat. Yeah, definitely never ever repeat the level of performance that we had that year. But no, they were great years, and can you just maybe summarise what it was all about for you, and then I'll summarise what it was all about for me at the end.
Well, from the start to finish, it was fantastic. The whole part of it. It was just part of your life, and all the crew members that we had were so dedicated. I mean, to keep 12 paddlers interested and never have a vacancy for 6 months a year was quite something.
Well, a couple of things I'll say. As a young loon and a young boy, I mean, I would have been 76. That would have been 12-year-old. So it was kind of a major life choice, or what's the word I'm maybe looking for? Influence on your life. Yeah. The third week in June was probably one of the most major influences in my life. Through rafting, it gave you determination, being able to train hard, teamwork, vital to have teamwork. And again, after I gave up the raft racing, I thought, well, what am I going to do with myself? And I progressed on to running, and I was kind of successful at that, I suppose. And I went on to do things like the Highland Cross and the Logierait races, endurance events that I seemed to quite fairly well excel at. Again, that was all down to the training that we did down Loch Tay, paddling against the current on the River Tay on the rafts for hours and hours and hours on end. So yeah, I have got a lot to be thankful for to rafter racing and Grease.
I mean, Grease was fantastic for the time it was on the go.